Hi everyone, my name is Casey Grudidaria from Ideal Wine and Spirits in Medford, Massachusetts, and I'm here to talk to you about the Spirited Gourmet's Wines of the Month for February. So we're starting with a Pet Nat Rosé from Fougères in the Languedoc from a biodynamic winery called Chateau Lalaquier. This wine is called the L'Unique Gaz du Schiste. Um, all of their soil is schist soil, and this is a blend of Grenache, Syrah, Carignan. And when I say it's a pet nat, what that means is that the bubbles come from a secondary fermentation that happens by leaving the yeast in the bottle. Because of that, this wine has really nice red fruits, but it also has some really nice yeast content. So it's got a really cool kind of champagne vibe when you drink it. Very delicious wine. Next, we're going to talk about the Maison des Ardoisiers Silice Blanc from Allobroge. So Allobroge is in the Savoie, and this wine is 100% Jacquer, mostly estate fruit, but he buys a little, which keeps the cost a little bit lower. This is a really special winemaker. He used to actually be a champagne producer. He fell in love with this sleepy town in the mountains and decided he wanted to make the best wines in that region. So he sold his land in Champagne, moved to the mountains, and this is a textured, really cool white wine. It's got little hints of lemon curd and honey. It's refreshing, it's direct, it's light bodied, even though there's a cool weightiness to it. It's really a pleasure to drink, and it's very unique. Really, really cool wine. Next, I want to talk about the Gorgo Custosa. So this is an organic wine from the Veneto. Custosa is kind of right next to Bardolino. This is all white grapes, Cortese, Tokai, Trebbiano, Garganega. And yeah, this is a great producer. It's one of those things that would probably cost more money if it came from a place that you had maybe heard of before, but it's really refreshing, just great Italian white table wine that overperforms its price point. Next, I want to talk about the Colterenzio Pinot Bianco or Weissburgunder Berg. So this comes out from Alto Adige, which is the mountainous region in Italy on the German border, which is why they write the Italian name Pinot Bianco and the German name Weissburgunder. That's the same thing on the bottle. And this is kind of a upper level bottling from this winery. It sees a little bit of wood age, and for me, Pinot Bianco is the best grape that grows in the Alto Adige. It's a really mouth-filling wine. It has really cool little hints of like baking spice. It's very, very pretty, and it's a nice winter white wine, especially. Colterenzio itself is a really, really great co-op from up there. That's really the wine culture in Alto Adige, is to have co-ops. There's a ton of people who own vineyards, but not a ton of people who own wineries. Most of them, they only own a hectare or two, so it's not enough grapes to make it worth bottling your own wine. Colterenzio, they pay more for high quality grapes, and they work with a stable of producers that, farmers I should say, that they've worked with for a very, very long time. So the quality is always really, really high with these guys, and the winemaking is excellent. Next, I want to talk about the Montanidoli Vernaccia Tradizionale. So Montanidoli is a very unique winery. The woman who owns this winery, Elisabetta Fagiolo, she's up in the mountains in San Gimignano. She's owned this winery for, I think, almost 50 years. She's making very traditional and sometimes forgotten wines that are really, really special. The Vernaccia Tradizionale, this is a white wine that she's probably the most famous for. She does a little bit of skin contact on this wine, and it really makes it quite savory while being very refreshing as well. It's not an orange wine by any means, but it's really got some cool textures and flavors that are atypical of, kind of boring Tuscan Vernaccias. This is a very, very special wine from a very unique singular winemaker. Next, I want to talk about the Clos Henri Petit Clos Sauvignon Blanc from Marlborough. This is a really cool situation. We work with a winery in the Loire Valley in France called Petit Bourgeois, Henri Bourgeois, and they're really specialists in Sauvignon Blanc. They wanted to kind of increase what they do in the world in terms of Sauvignon Blanc, but there's only so much land in Sancerre. And so in the early 2000s, I believe, they decided to start this farm in Marlborough, which they kind of viewed as the next best place to make Sauvignon Blanc. This is the first organic farm ever started for wine in Marlborough, and this is really, really cool because you get all those typical characters of New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, but it's made by French people with a real kind of, French philosophy. So it's refreshing. It has nice acidity. It doesn't have really any of that cloying, grassy kind of thing you can get from overripe New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs. It's a really, really beautiful expression of the style. All right, moving on to red wine. First, I want to talk about the Olivier Rotten Dole. So, Dole is an AOC in the Côte d'Acier in Switzerland, and this is a blend of mostly Pinot Noir and a little bit of Gamay. Yeah, Swiss wines can be very expensive. This one is a really, really good value considering where it's from. And, mountain red wines are really cool because you get really nice fruit notes, but you get nice earth notes, and they tend to be kind of light-bodied as well. So there's kind of a refreshing quality to this wine, even though it is red wine. And it's pretty unique. It's really hard to find Swiss wine on the market, so we're really excited about this one. Next, I want to talk about the Alta Alela Merla. This is a really, really cool winery. These guys are about 10 kilometers north of Barcelona in a national park. It's the closest winery to Barcelona in the world. And they're really, really dedicated to organic farming. In fact, anything that has their secondary label, Cellar de la Haus, comes from a part of their winery that they completely built out of recycled pieces, I guess you should say. Yeah, so this is 100% Monastrell, biodynamically farmed. The Merlot itself is a bird that really helps the ecosystem on the vineyard. These birds kind of eat all the little bugs in the soil that helps keep the vines healthy. Yeah, 100% Monastrell, bright red fruit, really nice tension in the wine. It's got a really, really exciting mouthfeel, I'd say, and it's just one of those things that has so much flavor. It really kind of tells the story of why good farming makes really delicious wines. Highly recommend this wine. The next two wines I want to show you come from the same winery. It's called Domaine des Maréchaux, and they're based right out of Pomerol on the right bank in Bordeaux. It's kind of the situation where a new generation's come into an old family winery and he's trying to bring some new ideas to Bordeaux. So first is his little bistro wine, which is called Le Petit Comptoir. And yeah, this is a blend of mostly Merlot and a little bit of Cab Franc. And he vinifies this in stainless steel, which is really atypical of the Bordeaux region. You see stuff like that a lot in the south of France, but not really in some place as classic as Bordeaux. Yeah, it makes this wine extremely drinkable, tons of red and blue fruit. It's a great bistro wine, and it's kind of cool. You don't see this type of wine from Bordeaux very often. And then the wine that has the estate name, Domaine des Maréchaux, Bordeaux Supérieur. This is 100% Merlot. I don't think you see a ton of 100% Merlot wines out of Bordeaux, except for, from the very famous places, Pomerol, Saint-Emilion. Yeah, I think people, they don't really think about how much they love Merlot. It's really, really delicious, especially from Bordeaux. And like I said about new ideas, he vinified this wine in cement, which, again, maybe typical in other parts of France. You don't see a lot of that in Bordeaux, especially for red wine. And the cool thing about cement is that it aerates the wine, but it doesn't impart any flavor on the wine. So you get really, really pure Merlot from Bordeaux. This is exactly how it should and could taste. It's a real mouthful. It's a really good value wine. There's a lot of wine in this bottle for the money. The next wine I want to talk about is the Les Amis de la Boussière. So this is a really great, effectively declassified Gigondas from the Rhone Valley. All of the fruit from this bottle comes from the family's estate in Gigondas. They're a very famous Gigondas producer, and they grow a bit of Merlot on the property, which is outside of the rules of the AOC, which is why this wine gets declassified to Vin de France. It's a blend of Syrah, Merlot, and Grenache, but it's mostly Syrah. And so what you have here is really great Syrah flavors from one of the best places in the world for the Syrah grape. I mean, Gigondas is really impressive wine, and this wine drinks a lot like those famous Rhone wines with like a fraction of the price. So this is really really cool stuff. Really great value here as well. Then the last one I want to talk about is the Santini Poggio al Moro Bolgheri. So Bolgheri is one of those places that people in Tuscany and Italy didn't really used to care about. They grow much more French varietals here than they do Italian varietals. This is a blend of Sangiovese, Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Syrah. But in the last, I'd say 20 years, Bulgari has become a place that is really, really highly sought after. The prices have skyrocketed. This one remains very affordable, and you really get that real Bulgari experience without having to pay a crazy price for it. It's just a cool situation where there's a really nice coastal influence. It's kind of in southern Tuscany, so you get really great ripeness on the grapes. And yeah, it's a very complete wine, very delicious, very mouth-filling. It tastes very Italian, even though you have those French varietals, and it's a special cool wine. So yeah, those are the wines of the month for February. I hope you check them out and enjoy them. Cheers.